Piali momachtiani, Shipanoka ni tlamachtili, mahtlatli wan ome. Hello everyone, come through, pass on through to do this lesson, lesson number 12. We're going to be focusing mostly on TOK, the ending, and learn a couple of new food words. Okay, TOK is it's not too difficult to understand. TOK just means that you're in a state of doing something. You're in a state of doing something. For example, you don't usually say, I wouldn't say ni kochi, ni okichpil kochi. This boy sleeps. I could say that, but I'm just talking about something he does in general. But if I want to say he's sleeping right now, this kind of verb is an action that he's doing right now. It would be a stative verb because he's in a state of doing this activity. So how do you know a verb needs to be a stative? Sometimes it'll just make sense. You'll pick up on the patterns after just getting exposed to it. As long as you can recognize the pattern right now, I think that'd be a positive thing. So here we would say kochtok. Notice we don't say kochitok. It gets reduced. We take off the I and becomes kochtok. Here I would say Guatotshyatok. Guatochya means to be sitting in this crouching kind of position, kind of like a guatochin, which is a rabbit. So to be sitting in this position is called Guatotshyatok. Guatotshyatok. It's something a lot of natives do, and just like some Asian countries, people do this often. A lot of natives do this, especially elderly ladies at marketplaces. It's the traditional sitting position. Mosewihtok is sitting in like a chair-like position or just sitting in general. Mosewihtok. From the word mosewia. Ni mosewia. I sit down. Ni mosewihtok. I'm sitting down right now, like I'm not going to sit down. I'm not on my way to sitting down. I'm literally in a state of being sitting down. That's a way to think about it. Because in English, it's the same thing. You say, I'm sitting down, whether you're on your way to sitting down or if you're in the position of sitting down. Ihkatok means you're in the position or a state of standing up, from the verb ihka. Ihkatok. He's standing up. Ihkatok. Now, if I tell someone, stand up, you don't usually say shiihka. Usually you would say shimoketsa. Shimoketsa. But people to say I'm in a state of sitting down, they don't usually say moketstok. They say ihkatok. And I think some natives might say that you could say moketstok, but that would imply something else that we won't get into. So the plural for this is ihkatoke. Ihkatoke, which means they are standing up. They are standing up. We are standing up, I would just put the prefix ti, which means we. And it's already in the plural, so it's understood as we. Ti ihkatoke. We are standing up. We are in a state of standing up. But here I'm just saying ihkatoke. They are standing up. So here's a whole conjugation of how it works. From the word kochi, to sleep. Nikochtok. I'm sleeping. Which you can't say, right? Because it wouldn't make sense, but hypothetically. Tikochtok. You are sleeping. Kochtok. She is sleeping. Tikochtoke. We are sleeping. Inkochtoke. Y'all are sleeping. Kochtoke. They are sleeping. So again, some verbs prefer just using the present tense, and some verbs prefer to say tok. Like Juan is in a state or position of being asleep, I would say Juan kochtok. There I would use a tok. But the verb mokokoa, people don't often say mokokohtok in the Huasteca. They would say Juan mokokoa. And that's understood as he's sick right now. Juan mokokoa. So how do you use tok? So you have a verb, how do you apply tok to it? Basically, you kind of turn it into the past tense. Mostly, we're talking about class 2 and class 3 words are going to have a change. So, ni mosewia, that's an ia oa verb. That means it's class 3. So to do it, you change the a for an h. Just like if you were saying it in the past tense. Nimosewihki, I sat down. Nimosewihtok, I am in a state of sitting down. So you're using the past tense form and then you add tok. Palewia, to help someone. Nimits palewihtok, I have helped you. Now here we have a new meaning of the verb tok. So it has a second meaning. Besides just being in a state of doing something, a verb like to help someone, it doesn't really make sense to say, I'm in a state of helping you. So when you use tok here, it actually implies to have done something before. To have done something before. I have seen it before. I have helped you before. I have paid for it before. I have eaten it before. I've tried it before. So that tok means that you have done something in the past. Nimitzpalewihtok, I have helped you. So kochi, to sleep. Nikochtok, this would mean in a state. I'm in a state of being asleep. Sepowi is a verb that means something is numb. Like noma sepowi, my hand is numb. My fingers are numb. Anything, right? Numb. Sepohtok would mean it is numb. Sepohtok. Did you notice the we changed into an H? Well, sepowi is class 2 verb, so that means you gotta take out the last vowel. So now it's sepo. So technically it's sepotok. But Huasteca doesn't like a W at the end of a syllable, so instead of saying sepotok, you'd say sepohtok. It's easier to pronounce. So that's why this... But I write it as a W here, and a lot of natives prefer to do that when they're really thinking about the morphology of the language, when you're thinking about how the words are put together. If I write a sepohtok with an H, you have no idea what verb that came from. You have no idea. You would look up sepoh as if sepoha or sepohi is a verb in a dictionary, and it doesn't exist. So when you write a W, and just remember, a W sounds like an H at the end. If you can remember that easy rule, then keep putting on a W here to show the listener or the reader, to show the reader where that verb is coming from. Okay, so onto some fruits. We've got, and food in general. Aguacate, avocado. Aguacate. Alashos, alashos. This is a borrowing from Arabic and then to Spanish. Alashos, orange. Ayohtli, squash or pumpkin. Any kind of squash or pumpkin. Remember, pumpkin is a squash too. So this would all be ayohtli. Don't confuse this, by the way, with the word ayot, which means turtle. Ayot means turtle. Ayohtli is squash. And if I say iayo, I'm not talking about its turtle. Iayo actually means it's juice. It's juice. Iayo. Cacahuatl. Cacahuatl. Peanuts. Cacahuatl. Caxotl. Caxotl. This is jicama. Jicama. Camohtli. Camohtli. This would be a camote. A camote. Kind of like a either, forget if it's sweet potato or if it's yam, but it's those two terminologies are a little bit confusing sometimes, but it's one of those two. Yeah, technically you would probably use it to apply to both of those, possibly even potatoes too. Okay, the word for a fruit is cuatlahcayotl. Cuatlahcayotl. In the Huasteca, cuatlahcayotl. This is from the verb tlaki, which tlaki means a fruit ripens. It ripens. Ayikana tlaki ne. Ne alashos. That means that orange is not yet ripe. It hasn't ripened yet. So that's the word tlaki. Kwa here kind of implies that it's from the wild, it's from outside, it's from the forest. So kuatlak and then kayot, which kind of makes it more abstract. So ripened thing. So anything that ripens is considered what you'd call a fruit in Nahuatl. Technically, yeah, basically anything that ripens. It can technically be used for a lot of vegetables too. The categorization in fruits and vegetables is different in Nahuatl. And even in English, botanically, they don't actually make a lot of sense sometimes. But so in other varieties, they say xochicuale, xochicuale, which kind of references that it's an edible part of the fruit, of the flower, I mean. See the word xochitl in there? That is from the word flower because any fruit has to come from a flowering plant. Guachilotl, guachilotl. This is the word for banana. Guachilotl. Shilotl is actually the corn tassel, the flowering part of a corn plant from the top. And if you look at how bananas grow, they kind of look like that, but on a bigger scale, the way that they grow. So it's kind of called like that's where it's kind of making a reference to that. And kwa being from the woods or from the trees. So it's kwashilotl. Sintli, corn. Sintli, corn, especially the hard little pieces, the kernels. Sintli. Elotl, elotl, especially the green type. Etl, beans. Etl. Mango. This is the borrowing since mangoes are not originally from here. Mango. Nehpali. And on some varieties it's nohpali. For some reason the Huasteca it's nehpali. Tomatl. Tomatl. Especially the smaller kinds is tomatl. Xonacatl. Xonacatl. This is your wild onions that grow in Mexico. Technically, this might not be botanically correct picture, but it's hard to find a picture of the original Xonacatl. Tamali is a tamal, also called a chichiquili in the Huasteca. Chichiquili. All right, so that's our words and our TOK. As always, post any questions, like and subscribe. Tlaskamati for joining us.